It returns tonight. Nearly 9 months after Cathedral Prep suited up for a state title, 40 teams return with the same goal: gold by season's end. Months of off-season work adding up to this night, to this moment. The scenes of Falls brings hope for every team as they embark on a journey full of excitement, heartbreak, and game-changing play. As the wait ends, enthusiasm builds for players, fans, and just everyone waiting to watch football once more. Tonight represents new faces, new beginnings, but still an old-fashioned goal: to win it all. Who will serenade the sounds of celebration by year's end? Kickoff is here, and week 1 of the high school football season begins tonight.
If that does not get you pumped up, I do not know what does. Welcome in everyone to the Alert Desk. Isaac Peckias, John Leidick. Man, it's Football Friday. Week 1, we get to smile as we get ready for the fall.
It is hard to believe. I remember this time last year we were, trying to figure out where could we go, where weren't we allowed to go. But back to somewhat of a normal sense here in an exciting time as we get ready for high school football to kick off tonight.
And we got a bunch of games. The big news, though, 2 of them not being played tonight, 2 of them getting canceled. The first one between Penns Valley, Mercyhurst Prep, that got canceled on Tuesday. And then one yesterday as well, Slippery Rock and Fort LaBeouf.
Yeah, tough blows for those teams as you all 4 that are involved in those games. You prepare all year, you're ready and excited for the night. Unfortunately, this is kind of the era we're living in, and of course, safety always. And you want to make sure and safe that teams aren't playing short-staffed, and that everybody that may have tested positive gets the rest and proper care that they need.
But we still have a lot of games to get to. John and I are going to be running around as well as our crew tonight for our first Football Friday, and we got our game of the week. As we go over to the big board here, let's show you what we're looking at. It's Erie and Cathedral Prep. These 2 teams meeting twice last year. And it's really, I think, when you look at this matchup, John, it's a matter of in with the old and in with the new. You have Cathedral Prep, Mike Mishler, the head coach, back for his 23rd season. He knows exactly what goes on in week 1 and beyond. Meanwhile, though, for Erie, the coaching carousel has been very interesting, and they finally got their bench boss in Andre Henderson a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and this is an interesting matchup. It's almost like 2 top 5 powers going head-to-head in week 1. You don't see this game it's not customary to be a week 1 game. Usually you see it maybe at earliest as a week 3 game. But an exciting night tonight. But yeah, Andre Henderson, we're going to see his first opportunity to see what he's been able to do with this team. He's got a lot of veterans coming back, especially on the offensive line. That could be the key part to get that running game going early. Meanwhile, a new signal caller for the Cathedral Prep Ramblers.
Indeed, Carter Barnes expected to start tonight. The man who was the backup quarterback last year expected to be the signal caller this entire season for the Ramblers. He'll, of course, have Michael Parks and company in the backfield back for Cathedral Prep. The guy we didn't mention for Erie, Marquel Darnell, the 20th ranked prospect in the entire state of Pennsylvania for the Erie Royals. He'll be somebody to look out for on the tight end spot. You expect, I think, this year, John, with Andre Henderson, more of a spread offense, going out to the wing, trying to stretch out Cathedral Prep's front 7, and that way force the game into the secondary.
Yeah, that's going to be the big part about this because, talking with Cathedral Prep, you don't want to say that they're short on the defensive line, but they're inexperienced on the defensive line, so that's maybe somewhere where tonight with that experience for Erie High on the offensive line, they go straight out and attack that early to see if they can create some mismatches and some opportunities to get out to the edge and let some of their horses run.
So last year was a COVID year. The teams only played 7-8 games, except for Cathedral Prep, who played 14. They went to the state title game, although 2 games to get there didn't end up getting played. Their 2 games coming up to Pine Richland were canceled because of COVID-19 issues with the other teams. But they're a squad that they did well in their region. We're 4-2, only 2 losses besides Pine Richland were to McDowell. John, you were in the big vicinity of those 2 games between Prep and Erie last year. What did they do well? They scored 89 points in those 2 games combined.
Well, they got out to quick starts. That's something that we saw. I mean, Erie High, I think, in both games got early touchdowns, and Cathedral Prep kind of felt it out. It was early run game, and then they started to open things up through the air, and once things started to stretch out and more of that ball control game, Michael Parks was a big part of it. I think he had close to 150 in game number 2, if memory serves me correct, and a couple of touchdowns. So you're going to see a lot of quick stuff tonight, and both teams trying to make their mark early, I would assume, is going to be the case. But again, like you said, Markel Darnell sitting there at 6'7". See if they can get the ball into his hands early to make some plays.
It was funny. I interviewed him for the first time on Thursday, getting a chance to talk to the teams before they went into their final preps before the game, and he was a towering figure. He's difficult to defend, especially in an area like Erie where you don't have those prolific 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" corners. Those just don't exist anymore, even in the NFL. So it's going to be difficult to cover him. We'll see if Prep can do it. But that's our game of the week. I'll be there with Jovan Johnson. We'll talk about that. But JD, my goodness, we've got some other games to get to. We'll have Gary's Grinders as well. We're bringing that back for this season. But some other prolific games to get to.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the big ones. I'll be out in West County tonight. Girard welcomes in Karn City. You know, they're not in District 10, but they always find a way week 1 or 2 to find their way up against the District 10 team. So we'll have that tonight. And then one of the games that I'm really interested to see, Cambridge Springs, year 2 under Nathan Liberty against Mark Sobolewski, and Fairview in year 2 there. In Fairview, it's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out. And, of course, you've got the big game tonight down on 12th and Cherry down at Haggerty Family Event Center in Dollinger Field.
Yeah, Cambridge Springs, Fairview, one of those push games you would think. Two teams that have the potential for some 7-8 win seasons, but at the same time, you never know because it's second-year head coach. Mark Sobolewski's, of course, been around the gauntlet a couple of times, of course, coaching at McDowell and a couple other teams before getting here. So those are some good games. Other games we're going to be covering tonight, Maplewood taking on Iroquois, though this game is not being played at John L. Post Stadium. JD, you had a package a couple of days ago on the new turf that's being put in, and they had a couple of hiccups, I guess not hiccups, but bumps in the road, other things that needed to be done that they didn't realize.
Yeah, they have to put in a new base and sub base. That wasn't expected. They thought it was a rip up of a turf, put a new carpet down. In terms of the turf, 3 weeks. Not going to happen because of the moisture and everything. Those deteriorated quickly, so they have to replace those. So it's going to be probably closer to October before Iroquois can play a home game there. So they moved to Harbor Creek, their big arch rival, Battle of the Bridge. They're going to move to Harbor Creek tonight. Harbor Creek will play tomorrow. But yeah, Iroquois looking to try and get some momentum. They're going to need some horses other than Michael Hoopsick in the backfield. And then Maplewood looking for a bounce-back year after a up-and-down season a year ago.
Other games we got going on, how about Northwestern and Seneca? The Wildcats last year, a near-perfect season, lost in the playoffs to Mercer County powerhouse Farrell, but they're returning a lot of players, including their star quarterback. They'll be taking on Seneca on the road in year 4 under head coach Mark Brooks. I'm getting this mixed up here. McDowell is at home tonight. Coach Orlando's squad taking on Lake Catholic. The Cougars will look in to dethrone the Trojans. And Oil City and General McLean. This could be a very interesting matchup, too. We got a bunch of good ones, including one down at Linden Field as Jim Wells' squad goes for a win, as this is a region game to start off the year.
Yeah, how about that? These two teams going head-to-head against each other. They've seen a couple of times in championship games, whether they're in 5A, 4A, whatever the year depended upon. But yeah, to get these two early on, you've got Oil City coming, trying to make it another, I think it would be coming off 3 straight District 10 titles, so they'd look to add to that coming into this season, but they have to replace a lot, while General McLean have to replace some of the running backs, but they've got an experienced team coming back. Boy, is that going to be a good one down there in Edinburgh.
Yeah, how do you replace Jackson Scrutchins and the likes of other guys as well for GM? We'll make sure that we find out tonight. Good lineup of games there. JD, we've got some more as well, including one down in Warren where Conneaut takes on the Dragons.
Yeah, we'll see how Conneaut fares. New coach there, and that's going to be Jake Stoyer. He takes over for only the second head coach in the program's history after Pat Gold retired and stepped down. So it'll be interesting to see that. Warren, they've trying to make it 4 straight winning seasons, something that Mark Morelli admitted doesn't happen often around there. They're looking to Landon Duvlos to lead the way at the quarterback position, a surprise quarterback that emerged late last season.
2 other games we have going on. We'll trek down to Titusville. Lakeview taking on the Titusville Rockets. Union City traveling to Cochranton, which also could be a push game. The Bears looking to build upon last season and trying to get off to a better start. A lot of these teams that are in 1A, 2A, not necessarily the Mercer County teams, but your Region 2, Region 3, Region 4 teams that last season started off 0-2, 0-3, but then rebounded. You talk about the teams that are in that category. Fairview is one of them, ending the season 4-1. Union City would be another as well. So the Bears trying to get a road win here in week 1.
Yeah, could be interesting there. Again, they're going to look to Kyler Schaefer. He's going to lead the way. Can he be enough, though, as the Bears move? And then taking a look, big night down at Carter Stadium as they welcome in the new turf that they put in down there. Not grass anymore, no muddy games for the Titusville Rockets, they'll look to zoom out of the chute as they take on the Lakeview Sailors.
All right, what else do we have tonight? A couple of games in Region 1 and Region 2. As we look down this way, you look at the team on the far left-hand side in the bottom left corner. That's the Farrell Steelers. If you thought they had a prolific year last year, they returned virtually everybody.
Yeah, and a lot of speed. This is going to be the game of the night if you're making your way down to Mercer County. Greenville and Farrell, always a pretty good game when those two get together, but man, it is going to be tough this year to slow down the Farrell Steelers. Greenville gets the first crack at it tonight.
Farrell is the overwhelming favorite in Region 1, but another team that could sneak up on them is the Greyhounds of Wilmington. They get Reynolds tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. Reynolds coming off last year where they beat Eisenhower for the District 1A championship. A couple of big boys that they had not coming back after graduation. And we'll see what Wilmington can do. They had some success in the past, but last year, kind of a up and down year. Yeah. They run into a couple of tough opponents in the playoffs. Look for a rebound for the Greyhounds as well, so that should be quite a matchup as well.
So those are the games more in Mercer County. We also want to talk about the Hickory Hornets. They'll play a couple of teams up in Erie this season, playing Ursuline. You expect that one to go Hickory's way, and then Sharpsville taking on Loudonville, the Redbirds going into Sharpsville. So a couple of games in Region 1, Region 2 in Mercer County. Let's see if we have any more.
Yep,
we do. Meadville taking on Grove City.
All right, Meadville coming down. The running back tandem that they have is going to be hard to stop this year, but Grove City's going to get a crack at it. They always get a tough opponent coming out of that. Northeast and Sean Humes, what can they do coming into this season?
And Laurel, if that team sounds familiar to you, you might be a Union City fan. That was the school that Union City took on in the semifinal before Union City won that game and then would eventually fall 2 games before the state title. There's one other game on our schedule that we don't have that actually got announced today. It's the Slippery Rock Rockets. They picked up Clarion. This is the team that they'll play tonight after the cancellation against Fort Leboeuf. We were talking yesterday, John. It was interesting. Slippery Rock is lucky that they're getting to play tonight, of course, because of the cancellation, but also because their schedule to start the season could have been in jeopardy in a big way because Week 2's opponent is Mercyhurst Prep.
Yeah, both those teams dealing with COVID-19 issues, so they could have been sitting to Week 3, something they didn't want to do. Luckily, they get Clarion tonight. But, Isaac, I want to point out, too, you look at the bottom of the schedule, maybe last game that we're showing you, but certainly not the least because you're talking about a team that came as a runner-up in Eisenhower last year in 1A. And how about Sagertown? 38 straight losses. They have a winning record last year at 5-3. 33 kids in camp and counting. They hope to build upon that as they head into this year.
Yeah, when you have a losing streak that big and then you turn it around to a winning season, the fact that you can get more players, more experience, a head coach returning, that's always key. So as we go back on our alert desk here, John, I want to ask, just because we know this is an exciting time for everyone. Every team's going to be pumped up. Every team has a chance to be undefeated at the end of the night. But what are some of the matchups besides Prep and Erie that you think will be important to look at tonight?
I think GM Oil City. I mean, when you start a region game, and those are two of the big boys that could compete, that's going to be a big one. It's not going to be a region game, but Cambridge Springs and Fairview, like I said, that's going to be an exciting one. And then you go down south, and you get some of the Greenville and the Farrells, Wilmington and Reynolds. That's exciting. But man, I don't know. That Sagertown Eisenhower is popping my eye just for the excitement of both programs and the success that they were able to have last year.
One game that I would also point out, too, for a potential upset, I think Seneca at home has a chance to take down Northwestern. Obviously, Mark Brooks' squad, very talented. They bring back virtually their entire offense. But that Week 1 road game, it's never easy when you have to travel, just like Union City traveling to Cochranton, when you have to go on the road. A lot of these schools haven't even started class yet, so you're practicing outside of the classroom. You never know. Things can happen, but that's the beauty of high school football. It's Week 1.
Yeah, excited to get it to you. And all the coverage, you can see some at 10, but the big part tonight, 11:15 Football Fridays, gets underway week number 1.
That is our preview. It should be fun. Week 1 of what we expect to be a fun 2.5 or 3 months. Join us at 11 every